One of my viewers, Dave, had asked about the battery life on the Spectre X360, and several people have asked how did things go with the repair at HP, and I wanted to go through that real quick. First, as for the battery life, I get an honest 6 hours of real use before it's dead. So if you're working a 10-hour day and 4 of those hours you have it set to sleep very quickly, you'll get through the whole day with battery charge. For me, I usually plug it in at least once in a while, and I don't use it all day long, but I do use this machine quite a bit at home and at work, and it's performed really well. As to the battery life, the video that I put up of the screen flickering was actually, I was set up to record some information on how to maximize battery life. And I didn't get to put that up because of the screen issues, which were more severe at the time. There are tricks to extending the battery if people want to hear about how to do it. It's sort of custom for the HP Spectre lines. This is the second Spectre that I've owned, and I was very pleased with the first one, which is why I bought a second one. So I'll talk a little bit about that here and some of the options that are available for the unit. I wanted to put out a disclaimer. I used to work for Hewlett-Packard. I worked for what is now the HPE Enterprise, doing supercomputer design for the government. And that division was, or that project, when it finished, was terminated, and the employees were let go, and I was one of those employees. So I worked there for 17 years, and I'm very familiar with the ins and outs of HP. However, that hasn't always been a factor in buying machines. While I worked at HP, in fact, I bought a Dell, I think it was a 1705. It's a very popular one that had the first 1080p display on it. And it ran for many years. It had a lot of problems. The problems on that machine were the graphics card. It was replaced 4 times in 4 years, where Dell sent out a repair tech to my house to service the machine. I've also owned 3 HP laptops now of the new variety. I had some that I used at work. This is one of the first ones I bought, which is what is it? It's a Pavilion DV7. It had a 1080p 17-inch package on it, and it was a very good machine, and I still use it. It has an i7 in it. It's very, very functional. Then I bought a Spectre 13-inch with a 2K display. I really liked that machine, but it was stolen, and I don't have it anymore. I have a lot of accessories for it, but no computer. The machine was a pleasure to use. I got on that machine 12 hours of battery life. If you really went skimpy on it, even just binge watching TV, I could get 10 hours of video over Wi-Fi on that machine. And again, there's tricks on the Spectre to get the battery life out of it. When I went to the 4K system, I really didn't need the 4K. I knew I was going to get into 4K video editing, which this machine does slowly, but it does a pretty good job. And I wanted to have good battery life. I was a little taken right after I purchased it. I found out that they made a 13-inch with a 4K display that's really thin. And it's an exclusive to Best Buy. You can't buy it through Hewlett-Packard. Best Buy paid for that model. It's a nice machine. However, it has one fault. In the tiny package, thin package with a 13-inch 4K display, there's not enough battery to get you through the day. So that computer gets about 2 hours of honest battery life, and that's not acceptable for me. So I stayed with this machine. I had to return 3 computers to HP, 2 computers. First 2, this is the third one that I got. First one I bought had the amazing display jitter, which in fact was not a hardware problem, it was firmware, and I'll touch on that in a second because there's some good deals out there to be had. The second machine was a replacement. In that machine, they did something I wasn't very happy about, and they put a non-Samsung drive. The first machine, which is the one that everyone benchmarked when they first came out, had a Samsung M2 SSD in it, and it was blazing fast. The second machine was appreciably slower, so much so that I noticed it, benchmarked it, found out they didn't put a Samsung in it, returned it, and I'm on my third machine, which does have a Samsung drive in it, and I think they've fixed the supply problems with Samsung at HP. So watch out for what drive is in it. You want to get the Samsung to get a speed demon out of it. As a result of all the people that had to return their computers for no reason, nothing wrong with them. It was a firmware issue that was a conflict between the NVIDIA, the touchpad, and the Intel graphics. Those three didn't get along well. And there are specialized drivers because of the size of the pad and the handshaking between the NVIDIA graphics and the Intel graphics. All those had to be tweaked. That was all firmware. It resulted in a lot of machines being returned to HP with nothing wrong. So those machines are available on a refurbished from HP deal. They've probably been used 2 weeks at the most, been returned for an issue that has nothing to do with the hardware. So all they did was re-image the drives with the correct firmware and then sell them as refurbished. So there's some great deals to be had there. I've seen them pop up on Amazon. I don't know if I'd buy them from eBay, but I have seen the refurbs from Hewlett-Packard direct to Amazon that you can get at a good price. And right now they're at the end of year sales, so there's probably some good opportunities to be had there. Looking at my list here, there have been 2 hardware issues since the return of all the display jitter problem machines, which were back in February, March of this year. The other problems were, number one, the USB-C connector on the charging plug just flat out wore out. It was in the springy contacts inside the plug, so you get a new plug or new adapter with a better plug that HP's had made, and that fixes that problem. The second problem is also something that people have commented on the HP boards. On my machine, the amplifier for the left speaker has failed, and so I've got to return it for that. That means getting all my data off of it, which is something I have yet to do. But I will get it returned, and if you'd like to hear about how that goes, I can post a review after I get the machine back. Would I buy this computer without the discount for being a former HP employee? That's difficult because that factor did weigh into my purchasing decision. However, when I bought the machine, I looked at all the options. Buying Hewlett-Packard, buying a Lenovo, I think it was called the Yoga, and also looking at Dell's option. I didn't find anything there that I was really impressed with. The battery life on those other machines seemed to be less than what I would get from the Spectre, and I've gotten really good life out of this. Most important computer accessory, good coffee. I had hoped that I could make use of all the USB-C flexibility for power. I got one of these USB-C power banks, and unfortunately, these computers require 20 volts at 5 amps from the adapter, which is the maximum you can get over USB-C. The power system in the Spectre X360 uses an honest 90 watts, if available. So these banks can't put out 100 watts. That's the spec for the highest power condition on USB-C. As a result, I can charge the internal battery from this, trickle charge it, but I'd have to leave the computer turned off, and I sure can't power the computer from the power bank. So that's an item to be noted. One of the unexpected features that I found was I'm using these UHS 2 cards for video, and they have a second set of contacts to get the high bandwidth connection. The internal card reader has that, and it works very well with the machine. Let me grab this other adapter here. I've bought some USB-C connectors that plug into it. This one here has got a wired Ethernet, power and USB-C in, SD card, micro SD card, 3 USB 3s, and HDMI. Those work, but the SD card does not have the UHS 2. In fact, most of the SD card readers, unless they're specifically UHS 2, don't have it. The ones that do have it advertise it. So having it built in was a nice feature that I found with the machine. I do plan to run a video in the future of accessories that work well with the computer once I find a good power bank, and that's proving to be very challenging. I've found some other items. I use XLR connectors for professional audio, and of course these new laptops all have the 4-conductor plug, which combines microphone and stereo. I found this adapter that's available online that gives you the XLR input for the microphone as well as a stereo output for the headphone, and this is a great survival item if you want to use your computer in the field with professional audio gear. So I have a few accessories. I'm trying to gather them up as it gets closer to Christmas here to make a accessory items list for the machine. Let me know if you'd like to see that. That's about it. Hope that answers the questions. One viewer had asked how much does it cost in rupees, and I would guess HP will just use standard currency conversion rates. However, I believe India has a very stiff import tax of 20 to 25%. So expect to pay that on top of the price of the machine. I think that answers most of the viewer questions that I've seen. If there's anything else I've missed, please go ahead and leave it in the comments. And I do read those, and I'll get back to you as time is available. Thanks for watching.